Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Retake LCS. My name, of course, is Alex Shinkari Erdenberger. It's been a while, guys. It's been a while since we've...
Been a few weeks.
It's been a few weeks. I have been sick the past couple of weeks and very, very busy with the move over to San Francisco. But here we are. We have finally made it to playoffs of the LCS. We have been looking forward to this all season, and we've already have some really great games, some really great upsets that we really want to talk about. So tonight we're going to be taking a look at all of it. We're going to be taking a look at all the playoff games. We're going to be talking about stuff that let us down this week. We're going to be talking about picks that we thought were interesting, and we're going to be making predictions for the coming week. Joining me this evening, I have Jared. Just call me Jared Warnke. And
love it.
Joining us as once again is Christian Saxby Gillespie. Guys, how you doing?
Hello. Very good.
That's great. That is just awesome. We're gonna, in order to save on time, we are going to skip a little bit of the news just because over the past few weeks.
There is none.
Well, there is none.
Well, you
this
got
week.
Rakan and Zaya.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess new champion.
Yep. New champions
Plural.
have been spoiled, and they look great. Hashtag relationship goals. Am I right? But we are.
Oh my gosh.
We are going to jump in, and we are going to jump right into our second segment for this week called the Series of the Week. We're going to talk about about the series that happened this week, and we're going to talk about all 4 games from the EU and NA playoffs this weekend. First, I'd like to talk about a game. We're just going to get this off the table. We're just going to start with this one because this one has us most excited probably. We're going to talk about Fnatic versus H2K.
Diving right in.
Wow, we're not even getting our feet wet with maybe we'll talk about Misfits versus Splice. No, We're diving right into the deep end. We're diving right into Fnatic versus H2K. I did not see this result coming at all. Going into this game, I was thinking easy, clean sweep. H2K beats Fnatic 3-0. Given Fnatic's max history, coming into this weekend, I think it's fair to say that everyone would have had the same prediction. I think my guest and I would love to talk about the Swedish 80 carry god Reckless, and as he only died 2 times over the course of this entire series. But I think Mr. Our resident Fnatic fan would like to talk more about this series than I would.
That's me.
That's me.
That's all me.
Yeah, so Christian, go ahead and tell me what you think about this series.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. It was awesome. And I mean, similar to you, I expected a 3-0 from H2K. I don't know what's been in the water Fnatic's drinking, but it's doing wonders. After they dropped Nico the Pico and they brought in a mental coach, his name is Jens, paired with Quay, the interim coach and the team manager, they've been improving incredibly. They brought G2 to a 3rd game, they beat Misfits, and now they've 3-0'd the H2K. And it was our weekly reminder that Reckless and Fnatic are the only people that can play ADC Kennen. It's ridiculous. Everyone else that plays Kennen loses, including a lot of the other games that were played this weekend. I know Splice versus Misfits, ADC Kennen or top Kennen went 0-4 in 5 games. So but you know what? You have to praise Fnatic for their play, and I do want to put a little bit of the fault on Prowley on H2K's end. I understand, Nuclear and Shay, they fell apart, and I'll get to that later, but Prowley as a coach has always been, very by the books. He plays meta champions. He has a very, formulaic approach to the game with early jungle pressure and making early map moves to kind of compensate the fact that H2K, they've never had stellar team play. That was always their big weakness, but their early play was always, by the books. It was always good, and that works against bad teams, but teams like Fnatic and G2 that can alleviate some of that early pressure, it doesn't work against them because it becomes too predictable. So right. Nicely done by Fnatic, and good effort to H2K. Febivin played very well. Odoamne played reasonably well. It just didn't work for them. So
right. Jared, what did you think of this Fnatic versus H2K game?
Yeah, not to pat Reckless on the back more, but he showed up a lot in this series. He in all 3 wins, he played 3 separate non-meta AD carries, and I think that really threw H2K off. Because, like, as you said, Prolly's very formulaic. He's sort of expecting certain things, and then Reckless is like, yo, I want to play Twitch. And he's just like, wait a second, that wasn't in the book. That wasn't there. And, like, again, as you said, Reckless only died twice during the series, but for me, the standout performance is actually Broxa for that jungle matchup against Yankos. Yankos, he's one of the best junglers EU's ever seen. He's called the first Blood King for a reason, and Broxa died twice during the series. And it just goes to show how, like, far cohesively he's come as a player, as Fnatic has gotten as a team. And then one of the other things that I really liked was how Fnatic's greatest strength was in their picks and bans. They had a lot of interesting picks. They could flex a lot of things. Jez has played support Camille twice. And then it was like all you have to do is pick it in the first or second rotation, and then the other team doesn't know where it's going anymore. And so they have to save their last 2 bans, and they have to be like, well, is it going top? Do we ban out top? Do we ban out supports? Try and force it somewhere? And I think that kind of threw H2K off and kind of lost them the series before it started. And then, like, for Caps, I think he kind of underperformed. Like, he went 3-2 in game 1, 2-2 in game 2, and he did go 8-3 on Aurelion Sol. I'll give that to him. But, like, he started the game 2-2, and all those, like, the rest of his kills kind of came later in the game as they were finishing. It was only a 29-minute game, and so it was just very snowbally for Fnatic.
Right. And with that, I think we're going to move on to our next series. We're going to hop across the pond, and we're going to talk about CLG versus FlyQuest. This game was apparently scripted, in quotes, by Riot. Although Hyde doesn't really like losing the first 2 games and having to do a reverse sweep literally every time he's in the playoffs. But you know what? He does it for us. So you know what? I'll let him have it. I think CLG shows us why you have to ban Aurelion Sol against Huhi every single game. His game 1 was just amazing. He's all over the map. 12-1 in AKDA, 45% of the team's damage, vastly out-damaging anyone else in the game. Constantly roaming the map, being a great playmaker for his team. Like, just great. Right? My favorite game of this whole series, game 2. Watching CLG's Baron play while Darshan and Huhi is just pushing on Nexus turrets, forcing FlyQuest to split themselves and having to decide, like, okay, do we have CLG let Baron and possibly let them end the game, or do we let them take Nexus turrets and possibly end the game? Both of these are bad. But if we don't do something, it's gonna be worse. So, with my little bit of fanboying for CLG, Christian, why don't you go ahead and tell me what you thought of the series?
Fanboying, wow, so professional. I have never once been biased towards any team ever. No, but this series was very bizarre, and like you mentioned, High's quote where he says LCS is scripted makes perfect sense just after seeing this. CLG, they came out the gate swinging, you know, that Aurelion Sol, like you mentioned, the 12-1-8, huge plays left and right. They completely dismantled FlyQuest, looking so much better than they had all split. Game 2, very similar. Yes, they banned out Aurelion Sol. Hui fell back onto Ari, and same thing. He made, you know, a lot of great plays. Stixxay and Afromu did very well. You know, everyone on CLG played very well Game 2. And then they won again, totally dismantling FlyQuest. And then something got flipped. And I kind of want to put it on Huhi's very small champion pool. His Aurelion Sol, God tier. His Ari was very good. And then FlyQuest just banned those 2. He had to fall back on Syndra twice in a row and then Echo. And he went 6-18 those last 3 games. It was very... it was just, you know, it was a total flip. And also, games 1 and 2, Xmithy was on Rengar. Games 3 and 4, Moon was on Rengar. And all 4 of those games, Rengar did extremely well. He was banned Game 5. Moon fell back on one of his signature champs, Evelynn, which was, you know, he always does very well. He's one of the few players that does really well on Evelynn, has insane map pressure. I love when, like, the Korean junglers pick up Evelynn because they always, you know, showcase her very well. And I think it's funny, just going back to the Rengar thing, how, you know, a few seasons back, NA Rengar meant a miserably miserably bad. Right? It was like if you picked Rengar, it was like a guaranteed loss in North America, and now it's the opposite. I just love that total flip.
Yeah, to say the least. Jared, what did you think of that series?
Yeah, so overall, this is actually my favorite series out of the four. I'm a big fan of like storyline games. Not saying that it's scripted, but it was just like you have Hai, you have Aframu, and these guys are known as like for their shot calling. These guys are two of the vets that are known to, carry teams. And I think that was one of the cool things going into it. Rengar, I think he was one of the most impactful champions in the series. He did go 4-0. FlyQuest actually banded out Game 5, so that way neither team could have it. But one of the things that I think a lot of people missed is that Ashe was actually also played in all 5 games, went 4-1, only lost CLG played at Game 3, and they lost on it. But other than that, Ashe won the entire other 4 games, depending on who was playing it. And I think that really fits into how both teams play stylistically and how both Altic and Stixxay can fit really well into their team with utility-wise. And I think Ashe was really perfect choice for either team, which is why it was played so much. And then one of the other things that helped FlyQuest was high picking Talon. I think having an AD mid laner gives a lot of flex to your jungler or their top laner. Because Balls, he's known for his Rumble. I think he played it, 3 games in a row? 1, 2, and 3? And then obviously having Moon to be able to pick up that Evelyn in Game 5. And it's just like, it's not an overwhelming amount of AP. You have Talon bringing up some more AD. And then one of the things that I think CLG missed out a lot on was they actually stopped banning Hai's mid laners. So games 1 and 2, they banned out both Zed and Talon, and then 3 and 4, they didn't ban out a mid laner. The next mid laner they banned was Game 5, and it was Orianna.
Yep.
And like Hai only played Talon or Orianna that entire series.
Yeah.
I feel like if you gave Hai a little bit more pressure, he would have had to go something. He would have been more uncomfortable, like who he ended up doing.
Right.
And it maybe would have helped them out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And with that, I think we're going to jump into the next series of the game, which is we're going to hop back to Europe as we talk about Misfits. We're just going to jump back and forth, and we're going to talk about Misfits versus Splice. Now, this was actually a very good series, like the CLG versus FlyQuest match. This was a series of 2 fairly even teams going up against each other. All these games were very long, averaging about 40 minutes. Usually when games take this long, it's usually because teams have a hard time cementing a lead early, or they don't exactly know how to follow their win condition. And it seemed like a lot like that when you saw like gold graphs, and it's just like, oh, it's like even, and then we spiked and we won.
Yeah.
It's games like that where things just go on for incredibly long, and it also seemed to me like Kabi was having a hard time piloting the AD carry Kennen as he picked it up for game 3 and 4, and he had very little impact. He had not a lot of success on it, and when you're playing a champion like that is very like a playmaking champion that you need to be very, very good on, especially in an AD carry role. Like, you need to be like A+ on this, or just don't play it. But, Kabi didn't really do so well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put the whole blame onto Kabi. We'll talk about this a little bit more. But, Christian, what did you think of this match?
It was the first of the 2 reverse sweeps. The second one we're discussing, but it did happen first. Mm-hmm. And, like you mentioned, this series further cemented that if you're not Fnatic, don't play Kennen. Hans Sama played it the first game. I think he went 5-1, so like he did well, but his team had no idea what to do around him. Games 3 and 4, Kabi played him, did very poorly. Game 5, they put Wonder on Kennen. I don't know why, but either way, Splice, first 2 games, boom, boom, 2 not quick wins, but 2, good wins. I think it was game 1, they were down 2 kills to 9. Clean aced them, took Baron, won, boom, before they came back alive. Just quick, decisive finishes. And then game 3, I guess they stopped banning out Power of Evil. I didn't see the bans, or I don't recall the bans of the first 2. Game 3, he played Syndra. That's his classic champ. That's what he was known on when he first joined the league, and he killed it. And then games 4 and 5, he was on LeBlanc, and he did so phenomenally well. He nearly solo carried. His team was Alfari was phenomenal this series, as well as Cacao. Cacao never disappoints though, so But Power of Evil turned on the Jets games 3 through 5, and it resulted in 3 convincing wins, and now they have to bring the Thunder to Unicorns next week. So
oh yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. I don't
that'll
know.
be awesome. That'll be so good.
Yeah, I think Splice is pretty good. I don't know if they're better than Unicorns, but that we can leave that for predictions later. Jared, what did you think of this matchup?
Honestly, I think the 2 victories that Splice had in the beginning of the series came off a lot of their macro play. As Christian said, game 1 they ended up down 2 kills. It was 7-9, and then game 2 they were only up 3 kills. The game ended. It was 13 kills to 10.
Yeah.
And I think what gave Splice a lot of their advantages was being able to rotate around the map, focus on neutral objectives, dragons, barons, towers, and then once they started fighting Misfits really just came up swinging, and they were winning a lot of these fights because the kill scores for games 3 through 5 were 22-7, 22-9, and 20-4. And I think putting PoE on something more bursty like LeBlanc and Syndra helped Misfits out so much.
Right.
Cassiopeia, and I understand that PoE's Orion is phenomenal,
Yeah.
but I don't think it really. I think he needed more time for it to scale up.
Right.
For him to do massive amounts of damage. Big props to Han Sama for doing so well in this series.
Yeah.
Even in the losses, the most he died was twice. I think he went 2-2 in game 2. Game 1, as you said, he was 5-1 on the Kennen, and I don't think he died during any of their victories.
Probably not.
And he was just so impactful overall throughout the entire series. And I think once for Misfits or for any of their opponents, they need to not lose a fight to Misfits, because I think that they know how to fight in their favor, and I think that's how they win a lot of their games.
Yeah.
I
think we talk about that a lot when we talk about Misfits. Like, Misfits is a very strong team fighting. A lot of the times when they make these very patient plays is that they're positioning around bigger objectives to force people into team fights so that they can go and then take the objective. That's how you beat them. If you were to put CLG up against Misfits, CLG probably wins because they do a great job of just pushing objectives. If you had that play like we talked about in game 2 of CLG versus FlyQuest, Misfits would just be what do we even do? Do we if we fight here we lose there, we fight there we lose here, and both options make us lose the game. So that's the way to beat Misfits, but Splice was yeah, and then yeah, this is how we beat him, and then we didn't. So we're gonna hop back one more time, and we're gonna move on to the next game, into our last game that we're going to discuss, and this is P1 versus Dignitas. And as much as I love Dignitas, my favorite team, this outcome is exactly how I thought it was going to be. Phoenix One has become a team to be reckoned with as they have impressively climbed from one of the worst teams in the league from last year to arguably the best team in the league right now. One of the best teams in the league right now. And just seeing this game was just a clean, just 3-0 sweep. And I was just good job, Dignitas, but it's just what else was going to happen? Christian, why don't you tell me a little bit more about this series?
I mean, I don't have a ton to say. Everyone expected Phoenix One to win. A lot of people said they were going to win 3-0. That's exactly what happened. I would have liked to see Dignitas. They recently acquired Kopp. He's been a great coach. They've shown a lot of improvement as a team. I would have liked for them to put up a fight, but Phoenix One, like you mentioned, they're one of the best teams in the league right now. The addition of Meteos when Inori had visa issues or something earlier in the split, he has kind of bred Inori into being this top tier jungler in North America, and he's homegrown too. He's not an import, which is awesome because gotta love the homegrown talent. But I'm very excited to watch Phoenix One versus Cloud9. I'm calling that game goes to 5. Haven't decided which way I'm swinging my vote yet, but I'm at the very least hoping for 5 games. I love watching good league, and I think C9 and P1 can bring that.
All right. Jared, what did you think of this series?
I thought it was great. Like you said before, I'm a big fan of, as I said before, I'm a big fan of storylines. So from Phoenix One going from 7th to 3rd, from like not winning a game from their first split until Lenore came in, they picked up a few here and there, to basically like being top 3 throughout the entire split, I think was really great. And I'm kind of a Phoenix One fan because of Inori, because of how well he's been able to play.
Oh yeah.
On like not like a phenomenal team, and how he's been able to stick with that team. And now that he's like back and in form, he's playing super well. I'll exclude the Graves whiff. You know, it happens. You know, sometimes you flash Q ult on Graves and you miss everything.
That's what we like to call the X special.
It was so funny. It was so funny.
The X is
Whiffed
the
it
X stands
completely.
for you don't land any of your skills after you flash.
Yeah. It's like
Flash,
Smithy.
hook,
on
play,
Season one.
box,
that's,
nothing. Walk away.
Happens
But,
to
like,
the best.
I didn't want to underestimate Dig going into the series, because like some days phenomenal when
Right.
he's on something that he can be phenomenal on. And Keen, it's such an interesting champion pool. Like, you never really know what Dignitas is going to pull out until you play them. And Dignitas just didn't pull out anything. It was like, oh, Keen gets to play meta mid laners. Ryu's such a better mid laner. Like, Ryu knows these matchups. Like, he's just going to win that lane. Some days on tanks, and all Zig has to do is not die. What did Zig do? Not die. And, like, it was interesting just to watch Dignitas kind of not play to their advantages. And then also, Laud, I'm going to get into you later, too, but, like, calling P1 not even on the radar against Arrow and Ryu, who was a world semifinalist, that was a bad move, and you got wrecked for it.
Yeah.
What does the saying? Talk shit, get kicked. I think.
Yeah,
Talk shit, get hit.
God, talk shit, get hit. Yeah. You're right. All right. And with that, we're gonna move on to our third segment of the day. We're gonna talk about interesting picks. We always like to see pros trying to counter the meta with their oddball picks. We're going to talk about what picks this week excited us or made us go, huh? I think for us, I think all of us can agree that seeing Kennen come out, especially as AD carry, like, was really weird. Like, you know, literally out of nowhere. Like, it makes sense to me because, you know, with a lot of attack speed itemization becoming more and more prevalent, and AD carry Kennen being very strong with a lot of these attack speed items, like, that's where he's strong. You know, he's another utility AD. He kind of fills the role of a utility AD carry, kind of like Jhin or Ashe or Sivir. But, you know, and on top of that, like, he has decent mixed damage, so itemizing against him is a little odd. You know, he didn't really have the best win rate this week, but I still think that he's good enough that he's going to stay. Like, this isn't a one-time thing. I think the very good AD carries are going to be playing him at least somewhat in order to, you know, fill out that kind of utility AD carry role. Christian, what was your interesting pick from this week?
I mean, I can give Fnatic alone this whole segment. I do have some sprinkles from, you know, here in North America, which I will get into in a moment. But aside from the ADC Kennen that Reckless played, let's look at his games 1 and 2, you know. They're Ashe, Varus, Jhin, Caitlyn, Ezreal, Lucian, like all these meta AD series were pretty much still on the board, and we know Reckless can play them. So game 1, Twitch. Game 2, Vayne. These two, like, non-meta champions, and he died 2 times on Twitch and then just didn't die again for the rest of the series. And then Jesus, who, you know, he's very known for his Zyra support. He decides to play Camille support, and he did extremely well. I mean, I was very surprised that he played as well as he did on this melee champion into Zyra, no less. You know, this very ranged poke heavy, but he did very well. Caps became the first player in Europe to play Aurelion Sol. It's a little late, you know, who he has the title of best Aurelion Sol, you know, that I've ever seen in competitive play. And speaking of CLG, I loved Darshan's Dr. Mundo pick game 2. Like, you know, he had the perfect KDA. He was aggressive with Xmithy. He was making plays left and right, good teleports. Just a fantastic performance from a champion we haven't seen in God knows how long.
Yeah, right.
So, like, I don't think anyone expected him to pick Mundo, and, you know, I loved watching it. It was a lot of fun, so.
I think the last time we saw Dr. Mundo must have been top lane in Season 3. It had to be.
It had to be more recently.
I don't
Definitely
know.
top lane. I feel like it's been more recent. I would have to, look in the history books.
Season 3 or Season 4. Like, I think when...
Yeah.
Actually, yeah,
It's
it was
been a
Season
while,
4
though.
because that was when Quas first came to the LCS. That was his first season, and he
that's
brought
true.
in the top lane Mundo, and everyone's like, "Oh, top lane Mundo stinks," and it's just like, "Yo, dude, I'm gonna play it in LCS," and then he did, and it was really good, and then everyone started playing it. So, Christian, why don't you tell me what your interesting pick was for this week?
I think you mean Jared.
Jared, excuse me.
All right, so my favorite pick was Inori going the Ivern game 1 against Dignitas. So the casters were talking about during the game, the first time Inori had played it. So this is the second time he played it, and the first time it was he just got wrecked. Like, they lost that game. It ended up being right before he took that quick break, and they brought in Meteos. And I think him picking it up again showed that he was like, yes, I'm here. I know how to play this champion. I am focused. I am ready to go all the way to Vancouver, finals, whatever. And then, obviously, everything I think that's needed to be said about Reckless's Kennen has been said. But the fact that he's the only one that can play it at such a high level shows, like, why he's one of the best EDCs Europe's ever seen. Other picks, High picking up talent a lot. I think it helped FlyQuest draw out bans or kill the carries for CLG.
Definitely.
Right. And with that, we are going to move on to our next segment, which I very much love to roleplay every single time we get into it.
It's game time.
Yeah, it's game time because, maybe you just lost that game of T-ball and, it was just bad. Like, you guys got beat real bad. Like, you couldn't even figure out why. And everyone's taking a knee. Like, your coach just takes a knee. It's just like, guys, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. So we're going to be discussing things that, might have made us disappointed from this weekend. I'm definitely most disappointed in H2K. As much as I am proud of Fnatic for the upset, like, H2K was going into this matchup very good. Like, they had such a great season. They were going into maybe the contest for like the third best team in Europe with Misfits, and this was great, like, awesome. Game 1, they allowed Camille to go through, picked a team that wants to get ahead early, and fell behind early, losing first blood and first tower. Game 2, they try to make the game a little bit even. They're able to hold out for a decent amount of time. They're giving up objective after objective, and then they just lose everything after a crucial fight in Baron. Game 3, they let Reckless have Kennen, an incredibly strong pick in that bot lane, and one of Kennen's most recent strong picks. And needless to say, he popped off that game with the rest of the team playing a Protect the Reckless comp. Like, I still stand behind saying that H2K should have won this series, but once again, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Christian, why don't you go ahead and tell me what's got you disappointed this week?
I'm in a similar, boat as you. A lot of people did, focus on Nuclear and Che. They went 3-27 and 16 in 3 games. That is, dreadfully bad between the two of them. That's a combined KDA. But they can't take all the blame. H2K left them to die. They got dove repeatedly when it should have been the other way around. Reckless plays Twitch in vain. Those champions literally scream, dive me, with Camille's support, who, like, yeah, she has, some utility, but she doesn't have that same utility that, like, a Zyra or a Karma or Lulu can provide to, kind of alleviate some of the damage coming out of a dive. And, they just didn't give anything to Nuclear and Che. And I know I mentioned my disappointment in Prowley earlier, but Game 3, he sealed his own fate. Like, he threw in the white flag. He surrendered. He gave Fnatic Shen and Kennen. I don't think they have lost once with those two champions. They might as well have just given Brox Aleeson and Caps LeBlanc, like, if they want to, complete the package of just giving Fnatic everything they want and not even taking, like, super OP champions. It was very bad. Good on Fnatic for punishing all the mistakes and cleaning up their drafts a lot. I know that was a huge, focal point for where Fnatic is struggling hard in their drafts, and they've definitely stepped up recently.
Yep.
So good on them. That's all I got. So.
All right. And Jared, why don't you, Jared, tell me.
We're on Jared.
Oh my God, I'm so confused. I don't know why. Jared, tell me what's got you disappointed this week.
All right. First and foremost, Keen, what are you doing?
He's got a whole list.
You play 60 champions. Don't play 2 that you knows how to play against. Pick up Azir, pick up Urgot, throw them off. They're expecting you to play meta champions. Why are you playing meta champions? You're known for off meta stuff. So stick to that, and you guys are going to do fine. And Laud, come on, man. Why are you trash talking Phoenix 1? They took third convincingly, and you guys were 1 loss away from not making playoffs. You needed 6 things to go right to make playoffs, and they happened. And you're like, hey, Phoenix 1, I know they've been really good all season, but they're not even on my radar. Yes, because you're not even on the same level. You're underwater looking at a radar. They're in the air just bombing the shit out of you. And you haven't earned the right to talk smack. You want to talk smack about teams belower than you. You know the saying, don't make fun of somebody bigger than you? You did, and you got smacked down for it. Arrow destroyed you in all 3 games. And then, just a quick thing, FlyQuest Game 1, why didn't you ban Aurelion Sol? This is the one champion who he is known for. He lost twice on that in the past year, and you were let's see if we can beat it. If SKT are gonna ban it, Faker doesn't want to deal with somebody's mid laner, then maybe you should follow them. Come on.
Jared's angry, guys. I don't think he's disappointed. I think he's pissed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know, man. Got a new segment in town.
Yeah, man. Let's just make the segment of the week. What's Jared pissed about today? With that, we're gonna go on to maybe a little bit more of a positive note. We're gonna jump into what's got us hyped. Now, our next topic is we're gonna be making predictions for the future. We're going to talk about matches you guys should be watching in the coming week, and we're going to be making predictions about their outcomes. I am super hyped for Cloud9 versus Phoenix 1. This is going to be a great game against 2 impressive teams. And we've talked about storylines, right? Phoenix 1 has climbed all the way from the bottom to now third place. And they had to really, really fight Cloud9 for that spot. They lost it in the end, which was really upsetting. But now they get a rematch. They get a rematch against Cloud9. And Cloud9 has also had a little bit of a shaky start as well. And they were able to climb out and make it to the top 3 as well. So these are 2 teams that have had to claw their way to where they've been. And now seeing both of these guys against each other is going to be a great game of League of Legends, right? This is going to go to 5 games. But I'm gonna make a prediction. I'm not gonna be oh, it's anyone's game. I'm gonna say Cloud9. I say Cloud9 wins 3-2 over Phoenix 1, and I would like to give reasoning, but I think I should have passed it over to my friend Christian, and he can tell me what his predictions are for this week.
All right, you already know what matchup has me the most hyped. I don't have to say a damn thing about it. I mean, I'm excited to watch all the series. It's Easter weekend, just going to be low stress, just hanging out, watching some League, loving it.
Yep.
But I'm obviously most excited for Fnatic versus G2. And, for the story, like Jared mentions, he loves a good story. I mean, personally, I think that matchup is what the final should be, but we're getting it in semis. But we have Soaz with his apparently AoE playoff buff. It used to be just him. Now it's the whole squad. We have the 2 arguable best AD carries in the West. The third is Arrow, in my opinion at least, and he's playing as well, so that's going to be awesome. 2 great mid laners, Cass versus Perks. Trick versus Broxa, aka the back-to-back MVP versus the rookie who just embarrassed Jankos of all junglers. So I'm expecting an epic 5-game series. Boldly calling 3-2 for Fnatic. Totally biased, but Otherwise, let's dive in. TSM versus FlyQuest. 3-0 TSM. They just look really good. FlyQuest looked very shaky their first 2 games, and I don't think that TSM is going to make the same mistakes that led to FlyQuest beating CLG, especially because, Bjergsen compared to Huhi, it's night and day. It really is. So, C9 versus Phoenix 1, 5 games. Oh, you're killing me. I know you voted for Cloud9. I'm gonna say Cloud9 as well.
Okay.
I just, for the story, TSM versus Cloud9 finals, It has to happen. But that's gonna be an epic series. I'm so excited. Unicorns versus Misfits. I'm expecting like 70 kill games in 25 minutes, but I'm going to say 3-2 Misfits for that one.
All right. And Jared, tell me what you're excited for this week and give me a prediction.
All right, so my favorite series this week is FlyQuest TSM because you have the classic matchup between Hai and Bjergsen, and that's like one of the staples of North America. Like the OG Cloud9 versus TSM, like Bjerg versus Hai, all those matchups have been so much fun to watch. And then you have the 2 junglers who have really shown up recently in Svenskeren and Moon. Now, we've seen both of them play for a really long time. Sometimes they've been really good, sometimes they've been pretty meh, but they're both on like this really hot streak of playing really well. I think the teams that they're on, respectively, has sort of helped them rise up a little bit more. I think Balls is going to have a hard time. He's going to have to really step up against Hanser if he's going to win that matchup. And I think overall the bottom lane is pretty even between Alltech and Lemon Nation, Biofrost and Wild Turtle. So I'm excited to watch whatever happens. Honestly, for NA, whichever team in the finals or 3rd place, I wouldn't actually be surprised to see. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see, like, TSM C9, FlyQuest C9, FlyQuest P1, TSM P1, like, any of those matchups, I wouldn't be surprised to see it at all in the finals or in the 3rd place. I think these 4 teams have really earned their spot as, like, some of the best teams in North America. Definitely. I could realistically see any team going to Rio for MSI. He could. Ryu and Rio. Close.
Where are all these people in my house?
But for predictions, I think TSM FlyQuest, I'm going to shoot for 3-1 TSM. I think it'll be a 4-game series. I think FlyQuest, they're going to try and keep it as close as they can, but I think once TSM picks up like 2 games, it's over.
Right. Yeah.
Cloud9 versus Phoenix 1, I think that's going to go 5 games. Depending on how much they use Meteos, I think will depend.
That's very true. That's a great point.
Whether or not like Phoenix 1 wins, I'm going to give it to them because I think the duo of Inori and Meteos is better interchangeably than the duo of Ray and Impact.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree as well.
And you can always throw off Cloud9 more depending on which jungler you throw in.
True.
Yep.
G2 versus Fnatic. I'm sorry, Christian, but I don't think G2 will make the same mistakes H2K did.
Oh!
3-0 or 3-1.
Whoa! At least give a few wins. Come on.
Well, if they get a few wins, then they win.
Man, they got 2 wins like 2 weeks ago, man. Come on.
I think G2 have been spending a lot of their time just preparing. I know G2 has had a rough past internationally, and if they want to do well at MSI this year, they kind of have to really show up, and they kind of need to stomp Fnatic. And then UOL Misfits, that's just going to be a 5-game clown fiesta. I can't even predict who's going to win because it's just going to be whoever wins the last fight.
Right.
And there's going to be like dozens of them.
Yeah, just so many. A bloodbath.
It's going to be fun, though. It's going to be grandiose time.
Oh, man. And I think that does it for today. I'd like to thank Christian and Jared for joining me today. If you liked our show, make sure to follow us on Twitch And find us on Facebook, Electronic Gaming Federation, Twitter at Official EGF, and YouTube, Electronic Gaming Federation. Everything are in the links down below, and the follow button is directly above us. So from all of us here at AGF, I'd like to thanks to everyone for watching. You can join us next Monday at about 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I'm Alex Shinkari Erdenberger, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.